And just like all good road trip adventures, this one is starting off in the long line here at Costco to get gas, because it's about 14 cents a liter cheaper here at this Costco in South Calgary than it is by our gas station at home. So much for supporting local. I gotta save a buck when I can. So I wonder how big Costco would need to build a gas station in order to actually meet the demand for their fuel without having cars queuing up for so long. And then the other question that Emily asked is, if you actually built it big enough that there wasn't a line, would that cause more people to use it, thus causing a line to form anyway? The old induced demand scenario. For many years, the traditional stop when driving between Calgary and Lethbridge was always the 7-Eleven in Claresholm. That's largely now been replaced by the Nanton candy store. So while Emily's in there shopping for some antiques and probably some candy too, I figured let's take a quick walk around and let's look at some of the sights of Nanton, Alberta. Now that we've completed our Nanton little stop, we're just going to grab some Subway and get out on the road again and get off the highway a little bit this time.
You're recording us eating?
Hmm?
You're recording it eating?
Mm-hmm. Just a quick little pit stop here along some random back road on our way to Lethbridge. Little short diversion here, stopping because of a historical marker sign, but unlike most of them that we stop at, this one isn't for an old school site, it's actually for an old post office. There we are. Post Office of Cutbank, May the 1st of 1902 to April 30th, 1912. So exactly 10 years. Now there is a foundation out there in the field, but it's pretty nice looking and concrete, so I think that's probably from something later and not from the post office itself. Of course, the real reason, well, I stopped to see the site as well, but the real reason that we're here is smooth, because there's a geocache hidden on it. Basic hide a key container, but there's the logbook inside. Another cache is in the books. And of course, I just realized I recorded that whole last segment with my microphone turned off, so it's probably going to be nothing but wind noise anyway. Oh well. Alright, well, we were just driving down another secondary highway and stumbled across a interesting looking abandoned house from the road. It's actually quite close to the road, but we want to get a better look, so I'm going to throw DroneOCan up in the air and we'll see what it looks like. And I mean, that is really the reason why I wanted a drone. To be able to get to those sorts of abandoned places that are on private property and be able to do it without trespassing and get a different look at things. And once again, really impressed with how DroneOCan handled the relatively high winds, hiding out in the car here to stay out of the wind, but handled it like a champ. One more successful flight. It is the start of a new day, and you can tell it's the start of a new day because I'm wearing a different shirt. And yeah, no, that's the only reason. Anywho, we are in Lethbridge, Alberta, and we're going to work our way back to Calgary or to Cochrane today. And I figured I would take a little time here before we get started to show you the famous Lethbridge wind gauge. So the Lethbridge wind gauge was originally in the brewery gardens. I believe it was, as you can see from the sign here, it was originally erected in 1985 as a Lethbridge Centennial project. I believe it was moved here to the Lethbridge Tourist Information Center in 1991. And if the ball is hanging at 22 degrees, that's when you know it's a calm day in Lethbridge. And I'll do this just to give you some scale as to the size of this ball. And yes, that's solid metal there. So it's a good thing I remembered to turn the microphone on here, because the ball is in that range that shows it's only calm here in Lethbridge right now. But even that means the wind is blowing, especially even at this early stage of the morning. And the flags there give you an indication of just how calm the winds are here in Lethbridge today. So naturally, the big reason why I had to stop here at the wind gauge was to find the geocache that's hidden very close nearby. And having accomplished that, Mabel and I are now going to hop back in the car, go pick up Emily. She's been shopping again, hunting for some antique and treasures to help restock her shop. Hair of the Frog Vintage, not sponsored. And then we're going to get on the road and see what we find along the way. Along a gravel road here because we got something cool to check out. Probably not the easiest to see, but there is a gigantic abandoned farmhouse sitting here. It's incredible. I'm not going to go in any closer other than through the magic of Zoom. Mainly because I don't want to trespass. We try and stay as legal as we possibly can. I'm going to take a walk down the road here a little ways. I think there's a gap in these caragana bushes and we can get a different view of it. So I'm not actually familiar with this program, the Farmstead Habitat Program, Garth McFarland and family. So I'm assuming that means this is like property that with landowners' permission you're able to gain access to for hunting purposes or something like that. Not really sure. There are some bees and some beehives back there, but I'm just more interested in the amazing house that's sitting here. That is incredible. That is a great find. I think this place is certainly drone worthy, and maybe we can get a little bit of a closer look. I hope that footage comes out as good as I thought it did. That was a really neat house. Really great stop. I mean, we're just driving random back roads here, picking a direction to try and see what we find, and never have seen this one before, but it's a great abandoned house out here in the middle of the prairies. Village of Hill Spring. On its surprise, southern Alberta, and it is really windy. And this is going to be our final stop on our way back to Cochrane. This is the Stavely Cemetery, and yeah, we're here because A, it's a cool cemetery, and B, there is a geocache to be found. So we've run around a little bit, we've gathered some of the information for the cache, but the real story, or the real important thing about this cache, is the story behind a particular gravestone here. And that story involves John Carmichael and H. Pearl Husted. I'll call him Husted for now. So in October of 1902, H. Pearl Husted came from Big Hole Basin in Montana to establish a ranch on Willow Creek in the Blacktail district to the west of Stavely. The homestead that lied to the east of Pearl belonged to a Scotsman, John Carmichael, who raised Angus cattle and was very loyal to the king. Pearl Husted, an American, raised Hereford cattle. The two men, very close neighbors and both bachelors, were bosom buddies, and each were concerned about the other's welfare. As often happens with friends, sometimes they would have disagreements, and they were always arguing over the same two subjects: politics and the best breed of cattle. So it was during one of their disagreements in 1929 that H. Pearl Husted suffered a stroke and died suddenly. And this was during one of their disagreements where they weren't speaking to each other. And shortly thereafter, John Carmichael learned he had terminal cancer and was also not long for this world. So in feeling bad about the situation, John Carmichael requested that he be buried in the same plot as his friend Husted. And the brother of Pearl Husted fulfilled that request. John Carmichael paid for the grave marker, and the two friends who died when they were on non-speaking terms remained together in the same plot here in the Stavely Cemetery almost 100 years later. So, John and Pearl, thanks for the great story, and hope you two, wherever you are on speaking terms. So, like I said, that's going to wrap it up for today. Nothing else to do except find the geocache and then get back on the road and start mentally preparing for work tomorrow. So we love old cemeteries. This was a great place to stop and end our little road trip here. So thank you very much for watching. Hope you kind of enjoyed our little 2-day getaway. No real sights along the way that we had planned, just what can we discover. So thank you very much. Big shout out to our latest subscribers. Thank you for coming along and enjoying the journey and joining the ride with us. And so from the Stavely Cemetery, on behalf of Emily, this is DanOCan saying we'll see you in the next video.